Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hanhart 415ES Panda and Reverse Panda 39mm. These watches are available from hanhart.com for €2,690. Hanharts have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1882 in Germany and they currently produce their watches in the Black Forest in Germany. In 1965, Hanhart released the original 415ES, which was a historically important piece because it was the first time that Hanhart had used a bidirectional bezel with 60-minute ticks, and it was also the first time Hanhart had used their wing logo. These pieces, the 415ES Panda and Reverse Panda, are heritage reissues of the original 1965 415ES made to modern day specifications. So firstly, let's look at the watch roll that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a genuine leather watch roll, which is housed inside an outer cardboard box. One removes the cardboard sleeve to the outer box. And as you can see, good attention to detail, because on the lid to the cardboard box we have Hanhart's logo with 1882, which, as I've detailed, refers to the foundation of the brand in Germany. One pulls down the flap, and I'll remove the watch roll and show it to you. So this is made from genuine leather, has a gorgeous scent to it, nice grained finish to it, flawless stitching around the perimeter in contrasting white stitching, two leather straps, and good attention to detail because we have the Hanhart logo and 1882, and the two straps are secured with these stainless steel rivets. So one unfolds it. Inside it has a suede effect to the leather, two flaps which do a good job of protecting the watch in shipping, and there are two leather straps, and the two leather straps are secured by stainless steel poppers which snap shut with a nice positive click, and this does a very good job of protecting the watch from moving around. Also good attention to detail because you can see even on the interior it's embossed with Hanhart 1882. I want to give due credit to Hanhart here because this is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get presentation correct. For example, they could have used the less expensive default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box, or alternatively a vinyl or PU leather watch roll, but this is not made from vinyl or PU leather. This is genuine leather, has a gorgeous scent to it, and the grained finish also is very aesthetically pleasing. It is excellent presentation. So with regards to the items that come with the piece, this is the owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Sellita caliber SW510M manual wind chronograph. One also gets this card, which is the warranty card. On the reverse, it details the reference number of the piece, the serial number, date of purchase, and it's also stamped by Hanhart. Also has the website hanhart.com. I'm pleased to report that the 415ES Panda and Reverse Panda we're going to be looking at are both covered by a 2-year international warranty. Often mid-tier brands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty, so it's very good to see 2 years of international warranty, which is the industry standard in the mid-tier, and Hanhart deserve full credit for that. And lastly, one also gets this Hanhart branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. Now, as I've detailed, the Panda and Reverse Panda you're looking at are both on the oyster style bracelet, but however, if that's not your personal taste, Hanhart also offer both pieces on a plethora of strap options such as bund straps, and also you can choose the colour of the strap, either this tan tone, which is cognac, or alternatively the black leather strap. So let's look at the straps in detail. Flawless stitching around the perimeter, which is contrasting. Plenty of holes in the strap. Now to clarify, they do two different lengths of strap. You can have medium or long. So for example, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, the medium strap will fit. If you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist, the long strap will fit. The underside is fully lined with Alcantara, and I want to give due credit to Hanhart here because to put this quality of strap into perspective, this is every bit as good as a high quality Hirsch calf leather strap, or alternatively a Horween shell cordovan strap. That is the level of quality we're looking at. Gorgeous scent to the genuine leather. It's not padded, but it is quite thick. It's thicker at the spring bar end where it needs to be more reinforced, because that's an area that leather straps tend to split and crack with daily wear and tear, and then it gradually tapers down in thickness and also tapers down in width. It is very soft and supple, so this does not require any breaking in. It's immediately soft and supple when you first fit it to the head of the piece. Beautiful cognac tone to it, and I like that it's matte rather than glossy finished. I like the contrasting stitching, which is flawless around the perimeter, on the top side and the underside. The benefit of it being Alcantara lined, which is like suede leather, is it feels very smooth. The other thing is it absorbs sweat and perspiration, and so therefore it's comfortable to wear the piece in warmer weather or when one is active, and the Alcantara absorbs the sweat and perspiration aspiration, and it does feel very comfortable rather than becoming sticky. So as you can see, very good attention to detail because it's also signed with a Hanhart logo, and we've also got 20mm. And again, correct decision because we've got quick release stainless steel spring bars versus standard spring bars, and therefore that negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the bracelet for the strap. On the other side, again, lined with Alcantara, excellent stitching around the perimeter. Two keepers which are correctly proportioned. First one is fixed as one would expect, second one slides, and this is suitable for a 6 to 7 inch wrist because it's the medium version, but they also offer the same cognac tan tone strap in a larger length, which is for 7 to 8 inches. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, and what I like about it is good attention to detail, good continuity of design, because it also features the original Hanhart wing logo, which also is featured on the dial, the caseback, and also we have the Hanhart winged H on the emblem of the crown. So nice heavy gauge to the stainless steel, no sharp edges, no burrs, doesn't have sharp corners, and they've made the correct decision by making it brushed satin finish with a beautiful luster versus mirror polished. A mirror polished buckle and tang would suit a dress piece, but this is a chronograph piece and of course a heritage reissue of the original 1965 415ES, so therefore brushed satin finishing suits a tall watch or a chronograph piece better than a mirror polished buckle and tang as per a dress piece. Excellent quality strap, and as I've detailed, really equal quality to the very best of Hirsch calf leather straps, or alternatively Horween shell cordovan straps, which are very high grade. Also available in black, as you can see, and I like both the cognac tan tone of the brown strap and also this black one. So again, beautiful grain finish to it. It's matte finish versus being glossy. Plenty of holes in it to fit from a 6 to 7 inch wrist. Alternatively, the longer strap fits a 7 to 8 inch wrist. Contrasting stitching around the perimeter. Very soft and supple. Doesn't require any breaking in. Doesn't feel stiff. Plenty of holes in it. And again, the black version is lined with Alcantara, which is like suede leather. Alcantara is very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. Embossed with Hanhart. And again, we've got a quick release stainless steel spring bar, which is excellent. Let's look at the buckle and tang side. Again, two keepers. One's fixed, one slides, as one would expect, correctly proportioned. Nice contrasting stitching, and I like the thickness of it. It is thicker at the spring bar end, but it then gradually tapers down to the buckle and tang end. Feels soft and supple. Really does remind me of a Horween shell cordovan strap, or alternatively a Hirsch calf leather strap in terms of how soft and supple it is. It's like calf leather or top grain leather, and it does have that soft, supple feel and also gorgeous scent to it. Again, buckle and tang is solid 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, and engraved with high definition engraving with the Hanhart winged logo. I'm pleased they didn't use the contemporary Hanhart logo because that wouldn't have fitted the aesthetic of this being a heritage reissue of the original 1965 415ES. The winged logo was the first time that Hanhart had used it on the original 415ES, and this is good that they've introduced it to the 415ES Panda and Reverse Panda. The winged logo does fit the piece. So excellent quality straps as alternatives to the oyster style bracelet. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 39mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46mm, a thickness of 13.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push micro-adjustment clasp. So I'm pleased to see we have the perfection personified taper that I often refer to in my previous reviews. 20 to 16 is the industry standard for good reason. It looks good and it also feels good. And for a 39mm head of the piece, it is the correct choice. 20 to 16 is perfection personified. Beautiful luster to the bracelet. Now, one detail I like about this piece, and it is a notable enhancement or upgrade, is this is a 2-button push micro adjustment clasp. And this is a notable upgrade because previously Hanhart used 2-button push clasp which had micro adjustment holes drilled in the flanks. This is better because we have a ratcheting mechanism with spring-loaded trigger which we'll test. So this provides 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment, which is excellent in the absence of half links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the oyster style bracelet. It's easy to fine-tune the length of the bracelet to get the perfect fit. We have a box top hat style double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the box top hat crystal. So to clarify, The original 1965 415ES used an acrylic crystal. This is a notable enhancement. Sapphire crystal, needless to say, is harder and more scratch resistant than acrylic. In the 1960s, acrylic, plexiglass and hesselite crystals were the popular choices, but of course they were then succeeded with mineral crystal and then succeeded with sapphire crystal with AR coating respectively. So sapphire crystal with AR coating has now become the industry standard. Hanhart deserve credit because when a brand does a heritage reissue of a 1960s piece, they have to get the balance correct between vintage aesthetic and modern day specification, and it is difficult to get that balance correct. For example, they could have used acrylic crystal, which would have given this piece a vintage aesthetic as per the original 1965 415ES, but however, acrylic is soft and therefore would be prone to being scuffed and scratched with daily wear and tear. That's the negative. So, subjectively, purist Hanhart collectors might be critical and say, well, it should have an acrylic crystal as per the original 415ES from 1965, or alternatively a hesselite or plexiglass crystal, but modern day specification is sapphire crystal. The benefit of this being double domed is, unlike a thick acrylic crystal, when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, one doesn't get the characteristic distortion and magnification effect, because unlike a single dome crystal, for example, which is flat on the underside and curved on the top side, when you tilt it at an oblique angle, because it's curved on the underside and curved on the top side, it reduces the magnification and distortion, so clarity is good, but it does have a nice 2mm top hat boxed profile, so it does have the vintage aesthetic of the original. Another notable upgrade or update to modern day specification is the bezel. So the bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth, mirror polished versus brush satin finished, low profile as per the original. So visually it does look very aesthetically pleasing like the original 415ES bezel from 1965. It's grippy and tactile, the mirror polishing to the teeth is finished to perfection, but however there is a notable difference. The original 415ES from 1965 used an aluminium bezel insert which was anodised black, and the triangle was silver, as were the 60-minute ticks, and the hour markers and the Arabic numerals were all silver. Now again, subjectively, purist Hanhart collectors might be critical of this, and they would say Hanhart should have used an aluminium bezel insert which is anodised black as per the original, with silver triangles, silver minute ticks and also silver hour markers and Arabic numerals. However, I think they've made the correct decision by upgrading it or updating it to 2025 specification. This is a ceramic bezel insert. Now, they made the correct decision by not looming it. For example, on the dial and hands it uses C1GLX2 superluminova. One could say they could have infilled the engraving in the ceramic, the triangle, the minute ticks, the hour markers and the Arabic numerals at 15, 30 and 45 respectively with the same C1GLX2 superluminova. That would have been beneficial, but one has to appreciate this is not a dive piece, we're looking at a chronograph. The other thing one has to appreciate is the original bidirectional bezel, which was friction based rather than 60 click unidirectional, that also had a silver triangle, silver 60-minute ticks, silver hour markers and silver Arabic numerals. So Hanhart have made the correct decision here, because rather than using white paint, they've used silver paint, and the silver paint inlaid into the engraving on the ceramic does replicate. Visually it does look aesthetically pleasing, but it also aesthetically looks like the original aluminium bezel insert, because that had a silver triangle, silver markers and also silver Arabic numerals. So visually it does look similar. The other thing I want to give credit to Hanhart for is it's not glossy. Often ceramic bezel inserts are very glossy and shiny. They look like black enamel, for example, but the ceramic has a matte finish to it rather than glossy. It doesn't look like enamel black, it looks like a matte aluminium bezel insert which has been anodised as per the original. So visually they've done a very good job, because with the matte ceramic they've replicated the look of anodised aluminium, and also the silver paint inlaid into the engraving visually does look like the metallic reflective property of aluminium. And I think they've done a very good job, because they could have infilled it with superluminova such as C1GLX2 as per the dial and hands, but they haven't. Of course, the benefit is ceramic is harder and more scratch resistant than the original aluminium bezel insert, which of course with daily wear and tear is easy to scuff and scratch. So visually it looks good, but also it's harder and more scratch resistant. I think they've got the balance correct. Has the aesthetic of a 1965 415ES, but the benefit of modern day 2025 specification, ceramic. So let's test the bezel execution. Now, notable difference between the original 1965 415ES and this one. which is the heritage reissue of it. The original had a bidirectional friction bezel. So to clarify, the original 415ES was the first Hanhart piece to feature a rotating bidirectional bezel, which was friction based with 60-minute ticks. Usually Hanhart chronograph pieces, such as the 417ES for example, have a fluted bezel. And of course a red marker at 12 o'clock, which can be used for a second time zone or marking the time when you're timing hours. So Hanhart pieces are known for having a fluted bezel and also a red marker, but the 415ES from 1965 was the first time they used a bidirectional bezel, which was friction based with 60-minute ticks, rather like a dive bezel. This one does not have a bidirectional bezel as per the original. It's not friction based. They've updated it to a 60-click unidirectional bezel. Now, subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, they've upgraded it to a unidirectional clicking bezel. Why didn't they make it the industry standard in 2025, which is 120 clicks? In the 1960s, bidirectional friction bezels, regardless of whether they were fluted or alternatively dive bezels, they predated the use of 60-click and 120-click unidirectional bezels, which are now the contemporary industry standard. I think they've got the balance correct. 60-click is more vintage. So to clarify, in the 1960s and 1970s, dive pieces and also chronograph pieces used bidirectional friction bezels. And then from the 1980s onwards, dive pieces began to use 60-click unidirectional bezels. And from the 1990s onwards, dive pieces began to use 120 clicks. This really is a compromise between the two. It's more refined, or one could say it's more contemporary, because it has a 60-click unidirectional bezel versus a bidirectional friction bezel. The benefit of it not being bidirectional is one can get the alignment bang on 60 every time, because each click has a nice heavy positive click. And the alignment is perfect. The silver triangle perfectly aligns with the 60 on the chapter ring and also the 12 o'clock printed Arabic numerals on the dial. In terms of execution, feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, but you can really feel the heavier clicks. A 60-click unidirectional bezel has nice loud audible clicks, but it feels heavier. The clicks are wider, the grooves are deeper than the 120 clicks, which are finer, and so therefore one has to become accustomed to it. If you're familiar with 120-click unidirectional bezels, 60-click does take some getting used to, but once you become accustomed to it, it feels smooth. Doesn't feel rough or gritty, feels even all the way through. The 360 degrees of rotation doesn't get lighter or heavier, which is good. Nice loud audible clicks, feels robust and reliable. Heavy spring-loaded action. You can really feel the click spring engaging with every one of the 60 grooves machined into the underside of the solid 316L grade stainless steel coin edge bezel. So it feels reliable and robust. No lateral side-side play whatsoever. The resistance is medium. It feels similar to a Seiko 5KX in terms of resistance. Doesn't feel too heavy, doesn't feel too light. I like the balance of it. They've got it correct. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play. Feels nice and tight. So I like it. It feels tight in terms of play, but in terms of resistance, it's medium. Doesn't feel too firm, rather like a Hanhart Ocean 139 bezel, which is too heavy. And it feels solid. So I like the smoothness of it. I like the lack of play, and I like the medium resistance. Let's check the alignments once again. Nice, loud, audible clicks. Perfect. The silver triangle perfectly aligns with the 60 on the chapter ring and also the 12 o'clock Arabic numerals. This is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get bezel execution correct. It's excellent. Everything about it. Even through the 360 degrees of rotation, no lateral side-to-side play, no back play, perfect alignment. They could not improve upon it. Subjectively, one could say it would be smoother and more refined if they used 120 clicks, but this is subjective. Some collectors will like that it has 60 clicks because it's more vintage, and of course purist Hanhart collectors will be critical of it and say that Hanhart should have used the original bidirectional friction bezel versus making it a 60-click unidirectional bezel as per a dive piece. But this really comes down to your personal preference. Do you prefer the vintage aesthetic or the vintage feeling of a bidirectional friction bezel as per their fluted bezels used on the 417ES for example? I like it. I like the 60-click unidirectional bezel. It's very refined. With regards to pushers and crown, we'll test the execution of the chronograph. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished domed cap, nice large chamfer which deletes the tips of the coin edge teeth. Now, the thing I like about it is it's embossed with a high definition Hanhart H, and it's the winged H. So what we've got here is continuity of design, as I've detailed. The original 1965 415ES was a historically important piece because for two reasons. First Hanhart piece to feature a bidirectional bezel with 60-minute ticks, first Hanhart piece to feature their winged logo. What we've got here is continuity. Hanhart wing logo on the dial, Hanhart's wing logo on the caseback. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it, as you can see. Hanhart's wing logo on the clasp, so all three places, and then finally we've got the Hanhart winged H embossed on the crown. So good to see a signed crown versus sterile as a production cost-cutting measure, and the quality of the mirror polishing is stellar. Proportion of the crown is correct. It's easy to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but it doesn't stick out too proud from the right hand flank, so when you flex the wrist it doesn't dig into the back of the hand, and the mirror polished domed cap to it is aesthetically pleasing but also means it's not sharp and it doesn't dig into the hand. Pushers are correctly proportioned as well. So let's test the crown execution. The push-pull crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. In the closed position, one can manually wind the Sellita caliber SW510M manual wind chronograph to its maximum 58-hour power reserve. Just think about that for a moment. With chronograph pieces with bicompact dials like this, one would expect 40 hours of power reserve. 58 hours is very strong specification. That's something I really like about the caliber SW510M, which is the manual wind version of the SW510 automatic. 58 hours, very impressive power reserve. Feels smooth to manually wind, doesn't feel rough or gritty, and one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. So to clarify, when the mainspring is fully exhausted, when it's fully unwound, 40 full clockwise turns is enough to fully manually wind the mainspring to its maximum 58-hour power reserve. Feels very smooth. I like the feeling of it, and one can feel the tension gradually building up to its maximum 58 hours. Pulling it out to the first click is the final click position, and we're now in the time setting position, which hacks the movement. Feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, minimal backplay. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the syringe minute hands, which are contrasting black. The black syringe hands are correctly proportioned. The syringe minute hand extends all the way to the 60-minute ticks on the chapter ring, and the syringe hour hand is also correctly proportioned. I like the smoothness of it. It feels refined. It feels reliable and robust. You can feel the meshing of the teeth on the gears are precise. They're very well machined. Build quality, quality control and tolerances are excellent. Feels nice and smooth. Minimal friction to it. It has 23 joules. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So I like it. The manual winding works well, time setting works well, and of course the hacking works well. Let's check the chronograph complications. So top pusher activates the chronograph. You can see the contrasting black chronograph hand begins to sweep around the dial. As you can see, nice and smooth. Nice crisp action to it. So to put the action into perspective, it's heavily sprung loaded, feels reliable and robust. Feels very similar to the feeling of a pusher on a Rolex Daytona. It's got that nice heavy spring-loaded action, so feels very reliable and robust. Feels heavier than an Omega Speedmaster, which you may be familiar with. Feels more like a Rolex Daytona. Nice, crisp, loud, audible click. Feels good, sounds good. And I really like that action of it. You've got to give it a good hard push with your index finger to stop it and start it. So really, in terms of the spring-loaded action, it feels very similar to the spring-loaded action of a Rolex Daytona, heavier than an Omega Speedmaster, which I prefer. Pushing the lower pusher resets the chronograph hand to bang on 60. Bang on 60, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock Arabic numeral. So I'm going to check it 2 more times. I always like to check a chronograph complication 3 out of 3 times. To check the alignments, when the chronograph hand stops and starts at different positions on the dial, I like to see it reset 3 out of 3 times, bang on the 60 on the chapter ring. Nice crisp stop. Resets also has a nice crisp reset, and again bang on the 60, so I'll just check it a third and final time. I really like the heavy feeling, much more satisfying than an Omega Speedmaster, which in my opinion the Speedmaster has a crisp action, but the spring-loaded pushers feel too light in terms of their spring-loaded resistance. I prefer the heavier spring-loaded action of a Rolex Daytona, which feels crisp. You've really got to press the Daytona pushers in harder with your index finger to activate the stop-start and to activate the reset. But I like that reliability because the spring-loaded action feels robust, it feels durable long term, and I think the Rolex Daytona has a heavier sensation to it than the Speedmaster. This does feel similar to a Daytona. Pressing the lower pusher resets it once again, bang on the centre. This is fantastic quality control. This is what I like about Hanhart. The pieces are made in the Black Forest in Germany. The quality control takes place in the Black Forest in Germany, and they're using a Swiss-made Sellita caliber, the SW510M, the manual wind chronograph version of the automatic 510. What I like about it is they regulate their calibers in 5 positions to chronometer accuracy, but above all else, the quality control is high, because if you look at the hand alignment, the chronograph second hand, it's perfectly aligned, bang on the centre of the 60 on the chapter ring. And this is the kind of refinement, the quality control level, this is what you're paying for. It's a German-made piece with a Swiss-made caliber. And I really like that quality control level. Crisp action and resets bang on 60 every single time. So, pushers work well, solid 3160L grade stainless steel, 100 metres of hermetic seal is strong specification for a chronograph. Strictly speaking, 50 would have sufficed. The push-pull crown is also well executed, feels smooth, excellent quality control. So let's look at the bracelet in detail. Oyster style bracelet with the perfection personified 20-16 taper. What we're looking at here is correct decision after correct decision, because they've used female pivoted end links versus male end links, and this does have an excellent compact 46mm lug to lug. 46 is 2mm below the perfect sweet spot of 48. I'm not going to be critical of it, because this at 39mm is the perfect lug to lug for a smaller wrist size of 6 to 7 inches. So for example, often collectors might think the 417 ES is too large for a 6 to 7 inch wrist. This 415 ES, which is similar proportions to the original 415 ES from 1965, has a smaller 39mm case versus the 417 ES, which is larger. So 46 lug to lug is good, it's compact, but the benefit is they haven't made the mistake of using male end links, which would extend the effective lug to lug and therefore created overhang on the angular lugs. So let's check the execution. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. Very good refinement. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side or up and down play, but we have friction interference fit. The spring bar is the correct diameter, going through a correct diameter hole in the end link in the oyster style bracelet. The benefit of the female pivoted end links, as I'll demonstrate in the wrist shot, is they allow the end link in the oyster style bracelet to pivot beneath the tip of the lug, as you can see. This gives a nice snug fit. Had they used male end links, there would be a gap beneath the end link in the oyster style bracelet, but by having that female pivoted end link, you can see the end link in the oyster style bracelet can articulate fully beneath the tip of the angular lugs. This improves the comfort level and feel good factor. Excellent. The luster on this oyster style bracelet is Rolex level, make no mistake about it. There's no discernible difference between the quality of the brushed satin finishing to this oyster style bracelet, which is 316L grade stainless steel, and the brushed satin finishing on my Rolex Starbucks or my 16610. It has the same fine-grained satin finishing, beautiful luster to it. It's just fantastic. And again, this is the refinement I like about Hanhart pieces. This isn't rough. The brushed satin finishing is refined. It is Rolex level. It is high tier level. What we're looking at in terms of bracelet finishing here is high tier level. So to clarify, mid tier is €500 to €5,000 finishing. High tier level is €10,000 plus finishing. This is Rolex level brushed satin finishing. The luster is fantastic. Also, they've made the correct decision because we have brushed satin finish flanks. Now, for example, often mid-tier brands make the mistake of they will have a clash in terms of finishing. For example, brushed satin finishing to the flanks of the head of the piece looks correct, and also the brushed satin finishing on the flanks of the bracelet matches it. Satin finish to the flanks, satin finish to the flanks of the bracelet. Often mid-tier brands make the mistake of mirror polishing the flanks to the head of the piece and then they brush satin finish the bracelet or vice versa, and then there's a clash. But what I like about this piece is the head of the piece and the bracelet are entirely brushed satin finished, and this matches. We've got continuity between the head of the piece and the bracelet. In terms of articulation, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. This feels refined. The build quality, quality control, tolerances are there. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks. Doesn't feel sharp, doesn't scratch the wrist. It's not sloppy. Nice and tight. They've got the balance correct. This is something that many mid-tier brands do not get correct. For example, the bracelet will be too stiff and it will kink. Or alternatively, it will be too loose and it will be sloppy and therefore it rattles. This is perfect. Nice and tight, but still articulates freely. Doesn't feel stiff or kink, no sharp edges, doesn't pull arm hairs, fantastic luster. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play in any direction. Lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play, feels nice and tight, articulates freely, fantastic. Beautiful luster to it, Rolex level finishing. No sharp edge to the top edge or low edge of the flanks. It's not sloppy. Excellent. Articulates freely but doesn't feel stiff or kink. And again, correct decision, because we're not looking at push pins as a production cost cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin per piece. 1.2mm screw pins are the correct choice. Excellent. The only thing they could enhance this bracelet with is if they added a half link on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet, because the problem with full links in an oyster style bracelet is sometimes adding or subtracting one full link from the 6 or the 12 o'clock side does not give the desired fit. The bracelet feels slightly too tight or too loose. Now I appreciate this does have 10mm of on the fly adjustment because of the micro adjustment clasp, which we'll test, but they could further enhance this piece if they added a half link. But however, screw pins are beneficial because they tighten up the tolerances better than using push pins, either split pins or pin and collars. You can see the bracelet flows nicely, articulates around the wrist well, doesn't pull arm hairs, doesn't feel sharp. It's fantastic. Rolex level, high tier 10,000 plus level finishing. So let's look at the clasp in detail. 2 button push triggers. Actually, I'll switch over to the other one because I've removed the protective plastic from that one. So beautiful luster to the body, as you can see, and it's engraved with high definition engraving with the Hanhart winged logo. And as I've detailed, the original 1965 415ES was the first time that Hanhart used the winged logo on a piece. And you can see, I'm very pleased they didn't use the contemporary Hanhart logo. They've used the original Hanhart logo, and it really does fit the aesthetic of this being a heritage reissue. I like the horizontal lines engraved, they add interest, and also the winged logo being enlarged. The high definition engraving doesn't feel sharp or rough, it's very well polished. Nice large brush satin finish bevels, which mark the transition between the body, which is brush satin finish, and the brush satin finished longitudinal finishing to the flanks. The bevels add interest, nice heavy gauge to it, doesn't have sharp edges to the top edge, lower edge, corners have been deburred and chamfered. The bevel has a nice crisp edge to it, but it doesn't feel sharp or rough. Undercuts to the flanks have been deburred and chamfered correctly. Pushes are correctly proportioned, heavily sprung loaded, they feel reliable and robust. Brush satin finished. Nice heavy spring loaded action to the 2 pushers. Opens freely. Solid 316L grade stainless steel internals. Flawless brush satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks. However, I'm going to be critical of one detail. If you look at stainless steel, you can see it's inverted. They've engraved it upside down. This would look better inverted. So to clarify why I say it's upside down, I've often referred to this in my previous reviews. The majority of collectors wear a piece on their left hand, this way up. Then they remove the piece from their left hand and turn it around like so. This is the orientation, and this is why the 2 button push triggers are on the left versus the right, because the clasp opens from left to right, which is correct. And when one opens it, this is now the correct orientation for the majority of left-handed collectors. And you can see when you open it up this way, stainless steel is engraved with high definition engraving, but it's inverted. It's upside down. They simply need to engrave stainless steel the other way up. It's upside down. Minor criticism, easy to correct, but they need to do that because this is a mid-tier piece costing €2,690. One can be magnanimous about these kind of mistakes with a low-tier piece costing €0 to €500, but we're looking at a mid-tier piece between 500 and 5,000 respectively, and at 2,690 it cannot have an inverted stainless steel. Needs to be the right way up. But on a positive note, no sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks. Centre section has been deburred and chamfered, no sharp corners. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play in any direction. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play in any direction. Finally, let's check the right hand hinge pin, which is actually a spring bar. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play, nice and tight. Pleasant surprise. This is something I like about Hanhart. Quality control is there. The refinement is there. This is the benefit of this being made in the Black Forest in Germany. Left hand, centre and right hand hinge pins all have friction interference fits. Tolerances are good. Build quality is good. Quality control is good. So looks good, feels good. No sharp edges. Comfort level, feel good factor is good. Visually it's very aesthetically pleasing. Now, as I've detailed, notable enhancement. 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment. This is a micro adjustment class. So to remind you, originally Hanhart used 2 button push clasp, but they had holes drilled in the flanks. The negative of that is there weren't enough holes in the flanks to fine tune the length, and of course sometimes one couldn't get the correct adjustment in the absence of half links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side with holes in the flanks. They updated the clasp to this micro adjustment clasp, and it's the same micro adjustment clasp used on the HD12, which I've previously reviewed. It's excellent. So what I like about it is the refinements, because the push engraved on the button or trigger has a light resistance to the spring-loaded action. You don't have to press it in very hard with your index finger or thumb to fully deploy it by 10mm. It deploys smoothly. 10mm of adjustment is good, and it clicks back in with nice, heavy, loud, audible clicks. Very satisfying. 10mm is optimum, and I like that you don't have to press in the trigger or button too hard to get it to deploy. Often with this style of micro adjustment clasp with a spring-loaded button, is you have to really press in the trigger or button very hard with your index finger or thumb in order to get it to deploy. With this, it's spring-loaded well, feels reliable and robust, but you don't have to press it in too hard. But the benefit is it's recessed, and so therefore with wrist pressure, you're not going to accidentally deploy it with wrist pressure pressing the trigger when you're wearing it. It's not going to accidentally deploy 10mm. Finishing is excellent. When it's fully deployed, the width of the bracelet, which is 16, is the correct fit. It doesn't rattle, it's not sloppy, doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side or up and down play, so it's not sloppy. When it's at its minimum, again, nice tight fit. The 16mm end of the oyster style bracelet fits the internals of the body, so it doesn't rattle, it's not sloppy, feels nice and tight, deploys smoothly, smooth action, nice heavy loud audible clicks. I like the feeling of it, I like the sound of it. This is a high quality micro adjustment clasp. Excellent. I really like it. This is a very pleasant micro adjustment clasp. Now there's something else I really like about it. It's not too bulky, which I'll show you in the wrist shots. Often micro adjustment clasps are too thick. They stick out too proud from the wrist. They're too bulky, they're too wide, and they're too long. Now the problem with the length, and I'll show you this in the wrist shot, for collectors with a smaller wrist, often micro adjustment clasp with 10mm of micro adjustment on the fly, the problem is they're too long and then one gets overhang on the wrist. The curvature isn't correct. This is correct for 6 to 7 inch wrists and also 7 to 8 inch wrists respectively. So I'll give you a wrist shot of both pieces. Now I haven't sized the bracelet, and bear in mind this is on its maximum extension on the ratcheting clasp, and you can see I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. So this indicates this will easily fit up to even a very large 9 inch wrist size. So there are enough removable links on the 6 o'clock side and the 12 o'clock side of the oyster style bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6 inch wrist size. And as you can see, it will even go up to a maximum 9 inch wrist size, because even on my large 8 inch wrist, plenty of length on the oyster style bracelet. 6 inch minimum up to 9 inch maximum. The only real refinement or the update they could make is a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 side, because that would enhance the fit. Because as I've detailed, sometimes adding or subtracting one full link on an oyster style bracelet doesn't give the perfect fit, but we do have 10mm of on the fly adjustment, which is beneficial. Comfort level and feel good factor is 10 out of 10. A very well balanced piece, and this is the reason why I often refer to 20 to 16 as perfection personified. This is the correct taper. It is the industry standard for good reason. So to clarify, 22 to 18 is one industry standard for larger pieces such as 41 and 42mm. For a 39 and 40mm, the industry standard is 20 to 16, the perfection personified taper. You can see why. Nice aggressive taper, deletes a lot of the meat from the bracelet, looks good, feels good. For a 39mm, 20 to 16 cannot be beaten. It is the ultimate bracelet taper, regardless of whether it's an oyster style bracelet, beads of rice bracelet or jubilee style bracelet. 20 to 16 is perfection personified. Beautiful luster to it. Feels balanced. Now in terms of proportions, it's very similar to the original 1965 415ES, so that will appeal to purist Hanhart collectors. 46mm is a compact lug to lug. I'm not going to be critical of it. 48 is the perfect sweet spot, but however at 39 this is clearly intended for collectors with a 6 to 7 inch wrist. If you have a larger wrist, of course the 417ES, which is larger, will appeal to you, but 46 will fit all wrist sizes well. It's compact, nice aggressive angular profile. The case angles down around the lugs so we don't get a large gap beneath the tips of the lugs, and again the benefit of the correct decision of female putted end links means the end link in the oyster style bracelet can pivot beneath the tips of the lugs. We have a nice minimal gap. Had they used male end links, it wouldn't have looked aesthetically pleasing because there would be a big slab of stainless steel rectangle in the centre of the end link, but of course we have a more aesthetically line across it, and you can see the benefits. The end link in the oyster style bracelet pivots. Perfect. Comfort level is fantastic. Now, the thing I like about this piece is the lack of heft. It is 168 grams. Now, bear in mind, that is with a very long bracelet. Even I would remove 4 links from this bracelet, and that would reduce it to circa 150 grams. So, to clarify, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 6 to 8 links from this bracelet. If you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you're still going to be removing 4 to 6 links. So, that will reduce it to below 150 grams. And of course, anything below 150 grams is the sweet spot to wear a piece for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Very aesthetically pleasing. Visually, it does give the aesthetic of a vintage 1960s piece, such as the original 1965 415ES. 39mm is the sweet spot. Vintage aesthetic. The ceramic bezel insert having a matte finish rather than glossy enamel finish, it means that it looks more like the aluminium bezel insert used on the original. I like the matte finish of the ceramic versus glossy finish of ceramic, and it does look more like aluminium. The AR coating works very well on the box top hat crystal. Now, thickness is the important thing to note, and it's something I want you to be mindful of because this piece is surprisingly low profile. Bearing in mind it is a chronograph. Now, this is 13.6. Hanhart deserve full credit here, and I want to bring your attention to something specifically. They could have used the Sellita caliber SW510 automatic. Now, subjectively, some collectors might be critical of them not using the automatic SW510 because, of course, it would have been beneficial to wear this piece and automatically wind it with the rotor. For example, wearing it 8 to 12 hours per day, you wouldn't need to put this on an automatic watch winder and you wouldn't need to manually wind it. However, I think they've made the correct decision because they have used the SW510M. M denotes manual wind. It's the manual wind version of the SW510 automatic. The benefit is it's a thinner caliber because Sellita delete the rotor. So it's 7mm thick. The benefit of the SW510M only being 7mm thick versus the automatic is Hanhart were able to slim down this piece down to only 13.6. And bear in mind, it still does have a 2mm thick box top hat crystal, which adds some thickness. Now, it is necessary because it does give the piece a vintage aesthetic as per an acrylic, hesselite or plexiglass box top hat crystal. Visually, it does look similar to a 1960s piece with an acrylic crystal, but as I've detailed, the benefit is sapphire crystal's harder and more scratch resistant, and of course, we have AR coating, which is beneficial for the clarity and the legibility. So, looks good, but point is, not too thick. Flat case back, doesn't add too much thickness. Had they used the automatic version, it would need a bubble back case back in order to provide adequate clearance. And of course, that would have added 1.5 to 2mm of thickness to the head of the piece. It would have been far too thick at 15mm, needless to say. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, 13mm and below is the sweet spot to easily slip underneath the shirt cuff. At 13.6, it's just marginally above the perfect sweet spot of 13. It's only 0.6mm above the sweet spot. It will still easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Therefore, it doesn't feel too top heavy. It doesn't feel like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. Had they used the SW510 automatic, yes it would be, because it would be 15mm, far too thick, top heavy, like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. 13.6 is excellent with the box top hat crystal. Looks good, feels good, fantastic. So I'll give you a wrist shot of the other version because this is the reverse Panda and this is the Panda. Now, in terms of comfort level and feel-good factor, both pieces are 10 out of 10. They feel very well balanced. The 39 head of the piece with a compact 46 lug to lug on the perfection personified 20 to 16 taper, they look good and they feel good. They feel very well balanced. So to clarify, the head of the piece does not feel top heavy, bracelet feels balanced, clasp feels balanced. Now, as I've detailed, what I like about this micro adjustment clasp is it's not too bulky, it's not too thick. This is the reason why I refer to 20 to 16 as perfection personified, because the benefit of it tapering from 20 down to 16 is we are now 16 at the clasp end. Had they used the other industry standard of 22 to 18 or 20 to 18, which is less popular, If this were 18 at the clasp, they would have to make the clasp wider for an 18 bracelet, and of course it would then be too bulky. You can see the curvature of this is perfect. It curves around the wrist very well. So even for a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, the curvature is correct. It's not too long. You're not going to get overhang on a smaller wrist. And of course at 39, this is clearly intended for collectors with a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist. So this fits a 6 to 7 well because the curvature is good. It's not too thick, it's not too bulky, and it's not too long, but we have 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment. Beautiful luster to it. The luster to the Oyster Style bracelet is Rolex level. Fantastic. I like the brushed satin finish flanks, gives the piece a tall watch aesthetic. Proportions of the head of the piece are fantastic. 39 by 46 is compact, 20mm lug width is correct, and of course 13.6 is just marginally above the sweet spot of 13. Correct choice using the 7mm thick SW510M versus the thicker calibre, the SW510 automatic. 13.6 is good, and 58 hours is fantastic. So looks good, feels good. Of the two, difficult to choose between them. I prefer the reverse Panda because the subdials, which we'll test in the loom test, are fully loomed. That's the benefit, but they are both very aesthetically pleasing, both the Panda and also the reverse Panda. Very difficult to choose between them. It really is subjective. It comes down to, do you prefer a Panda bicompact style or a reverse Panda bicompact style? Again, 168 grams, but of course, very long bracelet. I can slide 2 fingers beneath it. This will fit up to a 9 inch wrist with its on its maximum extension of the 10mm of on-the-fly adjustment. So, below 150 grams if it's sized to fit a 7 to 8 inch wrist. So, balanced, looks good, feels good, beautiful luster to it. Now, before I do wrist shots, I want to talk about the case finishing in detail because this is something I want to give due credit to Hanhart for. So, solid 316L grade stainless steel case. The reason why I want to specifically talk about it is the case finishing on this piece. What we're looking at is peak Hanhart. This is one of the greatest Hanhart pieces made in terms of finishing because the longitudinal brushed satin finishing on the flanks and the brushed satin finishing to the tops of the angular lugs and the angular bevels which are machined, they are high tier level. This is Rolex level case finishing. To put this into perspective, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000. This is a mid-tier piece at $2,690. But what we're looking at is not mid-tier finishing. This is high-tier level €10,000 plus case finishing. The longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the flanks has an incredible luster to it. This is Rolex level brushed satin finishing. The mirror polishing to the tops of the bevels on the top of the lugs, which mark the transition between the top of the lugs and the flanks to the case, is Rolex level. On the pusher and crown guard side, the finishing is also exceptional. The other thing I like about it is it's not slab-sided. It does not have thick slab sides as per a Tudor Black Bay chronograph, which is too thick and has slab sides to it which do not look visually aesthetically pleasing. If you look at the undersides of the head of the piece, you can see it has a large mirror polished bevel, and that deletes the sharp edge on the undercuts to the flanks, both on the left hand flank and the right hand flank, the crown guard and pusher side, the crown and pusher side. The benefit of the large mirror polished bevels is that there is no sharp edge to the undercuts of the flanks. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor because it doesn't feel sharp, doesn't feel rough, and when you're wearing the piece for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, you don't have a sharp edge scratching the wrist. The case finishing is stellar. Make no mistake, this is high tier level finishing on a mid-tier piece. It's something I really like about this piece, the refinement of the finishing to the head of the piece. Bezel, case back are all finished to perfection. So I'll show you the case back. Now, again, what I like about it is continuity. This is a forged case back. So to remind you, I like forged case backs, as you'll know from my previous reviews, because they are hydraulically pressed versus being engraved. So it's embossed with the Hanhart wing logo. And as I detailed, the original 1965 415ES was the first Hanhart piece to feature the Hanhart winged logo, which is the vintage logo versus the contemporary logo. And you can see below it is embossed with Hergestellt in Deutschland. Hergestellt in Deutschland means made in Germany. The background is matte bead blasted effect, and then we've got mirror polishing to the embossing, the Hanhart wing logo and Hergestellt in Deutschland. It's not over-brand with unnecessary text or specification. It's minimalist. It's low profile. It's flat. Now, the benefit of it being flat versus bubble back and deep is this piece sits very close to the wrist. Even though it has a 2mm box top hat sapphire crystal, it's only 13.6, which is only marginally 0.6 above the sweet spot of 13. Therefore, the comfort level and feel good factor are enhanced. Had they used the SW510 automatic, this would be 15mm, far too thick. This is only 13.6. It's 1.4mm thinner because the SW510M, the manual wind version, is only 7mm thick. Fantastic. Circumference is mirror polished to a flawless standard, engraved with the reference number specification of the piece. 100 metres of hermetic seal is strong specification for a chronograph. They could have used the production cost-cutting measure of a pressed-on caseback with 50 metres. We're not looking at a dive piece, but this has 100 metres and a solid stainless steel screw-down caseback. Milled slots are deburred and chamfered, no sharp edges. Fantastic finishing. Now, the underside to the head of the piece is mirror polished to a flawless standard. Nice bevels on the tips of the four corners to the lugs, no sharp corners. Undercuts to the flanks have nice bevels. And we've got quick release stainless steel spring bars. So again, what we're looking at is correct decision after correct decision, because they could have used standard stainless steel spring bars. Quick release stainless steel spring bars to negate the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the oyster style bracelet for the genuine leather strap included. So, excellent. Excellent solid female pivoted end links. Quality of the head of the piece finishing really is stellar. This is Rolex level, 10,000 plus euro level on a mid-tier piece costing 2,690. Right, so now let's do a lume test of both pieces and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So both the Panda and the reverse Panda use the same C1 GL-X2 Superluminova, which has a green tone to it, rather like tritium, which was used in the 1960s. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the printed Arabic numerals and 5 to 6 layers on the syringe hands. The syringe hands are correctly proportioned, and they've also even loomed the chronograph hand, which is a pleasant surprise. Perfect colour tone match in daylight. They both look white on the Arabic numerals, white on the syringe hands. And in the dark, you can see the green tone is the same on the Arabic numerals, on the dial, and also on the syringe hands. In terms of potency of the exciter, it's good, and I think they've made the correct choice by using green tone C1 GLX2 versus using BGW9. Had they used BGW9 glowing blue, this would not fit the aesthetic of this being a heritage reissue of the 1965 415ES, which used tritium, because tritium glowed green in the dark versus blue as per Rolex Chrome Light and BGW9. Now, subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, you've missed an opportunity here because they haven't loomed the triangle. As you can see, it's a silver triangle. Also, they could have used the fully loomed ceramic bezel insert with 60-minute ticks and the Arabic numerals fully loomed with the same C1 GL X2 Superluminova. But I'm not going to be critical of the ceramic bezel insert not being fully loomed. So why do I say that? Well, the original 1965 415ES did not have a loom pip. It was not a dive piece. It's a chronograph, although it did have a dive-style bezel with a 60-minute ticks. The triangle was silver, but there was no loom pip. It didn't have tritium and a loom pip. It was just a silver triangle with 60-minute ticks in silver. The hour markers and also the Arabic numerals were all silver because it was anodized aluminium. One could say they could upgrade it to modern-day specification and use a fully loomed triangle, or alternatively a fully loomed ceramic bezel insert. But subjectively, I would be critical of that and say, well, this is a heritage reissue, and it would be a step too far. And as I've detailed, it's difficult for a brand when they do a 1960s heritage reissue to get the balance correct between vintage aesthetic from 1960s and modern day specification in 2025. I think they've got it right by using a ceramic bezel insert, but inlaying it with silver paint versus Superluminova. And this isn't a dive piece. Now, if it were a heritage reissue of a 1965 dive piece, I would say yes, a loomed triangle, alternatively loom pip, or fully loomed ceramic bezel insert would be notable enhancement. But you can see 5 to 6 layers on the dial, 5 to 6 layers on the hands, and perfect colour tone match in green between the dial and the hands. I think it looks good without the loomed bezel insert because the silver paint in daylight does look very similar to the anodized aluminium bezel insert used on the original. Performance is good, potency of the exciter is good, and we're looking at 5 to 6 on the hands, the syringe handset, 5 to 6 on the Arabic numerals. Now, I'll do the same thing with the reverse Panda. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak because I want to compare the difference in the two. So as I've detailed, the notable difference between the Panda, which I just showed you, and this reverse Panda is this reverse Panda features fully loomed subdials on the bicompact style. And this is something that other Hanhart pieces such as the 417ES and also the other versions of the 415ES, the Iconic and Pure, which I previously reviewed, do not have. Now, as you can see, this is the benefit, stellar performance. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the Arabic numerals, 5 to 6 on the syringe hands, 5 to 6 on the bicompacts subdials at 9 and 3 o'clock. Excellent. Of the two choices, this has the edge. So clearly, the fully loomed subdials has the edge over the Panda version, which has black subdials. It comes down to your personal taste. Do you prefer a Panda dial or a reverse Panda? Of the two, I prefer this reverse Panda. You can see Exciter has potency, so in daylight there's a perfect colour tone match. The subdials look pure white, they don't look cream. The Arabic numerals also look pure white, and the syringe handset also looks pure white. They don't look more white or cream on the dial or hands, which is good. Potency of the Exciter is good. Now in the dark, perfect green colour tone match between the Arabic numerals, the subdials and also the syringe handset. They don't look lighter or darker, so that indicates an even application of 5 to 6 layers. Again, I think they've made the correct decision. Had they used BGW9 and it glowing blue, that wouldn't look right because the original 415ES from 1965, as I've detailed, used tritium, which glowed green. C3 would have been a darker green, and this is the benefit of using the added potency of C1 GLX2. So the C1 is whiter than C3, it's a lighter green. GL adds potency to the Exciter in terms of its longevity, and X2 also adds potency. So performance is good. The C1 GLX2 performs better than just using C3, which would have been darker green. Nice green tone to it. Does visually look similar to tritium, but you can see the benefits of the reverse Panda versus the Panda because we have the bicompact style which are fully loomed versus the black dials of the Panda which aren't. This is better. So I prefer the reverse Panda, but it comes down to your personal taste. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. So to remind you, this is powered by the Sellita Caliber SW510M. The M in the reference denotes manual wind, so it's a mechanical manual wind chronograph. Now, Hanhart had the choice. They could have used the SW510. It would have fitted in this case of the 415ES, but of course it would have made the piece thicker. So the SW510M is 7mm thick. It's a thin chronograph caliber. Correct choice. Had they used the automatic with a rotor, it would have been thicker. And as I've detailed, if this were powered by the SW510 automatic, it would be 15mm thick. Far too thick. They slimmed it down by 1.4mm to only 13.6, even though it has a 2mm box top hat sapphire crystal, because this is the manual wind version, which is only 7mm. Has 23 joules. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, and as I've demonstrated, work well. 58-hour power reserve is very impressive. Often chronographs only have 40 hours. This has 58, which is excellent. The benefit of it being 58 hours versus 40 is that you don't need to manually wind it on a daily basis or even every other day. 58 hours is very strong power reserve, which is good for a manual wind because we don't have a rotor automatically winding it. Stated accuracy of the SW510M is plus or minus 5 seconds per day, regulated in 5 positions. Hanhart are regulating in 5 positions to better than plus or minus 5 seconds per day. This one is running consistently at plus 2 seconds per day when it's fully wound to its maximum 58 hours. So to clarify, plus 2 is actually within chronometer grade accuracy of minus 4 to plus 6. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 5 when regulated in 5 positions, which in itself is excellent, but Hanhart go further. They regulate it in 5 positions to chronometer accuracy of minus 4 to plus 6. Plus 2 is stellar accuracy. No reliability issues whatsoever with regards to the SW510. The architecture of the SW510 and the SW510M is the same. The only difference is Sellita delete the rotor from the SW510 automatic to create the SW510M, the manual wind chronograph version of it. Other than that, the architecture is identical, therefore the reliability is the same. The build quality, quality control, tolerances, machining and finishing are the same. Really it comes down to thickness, and the benefit is it's only 7mm as I've detailed. Other notable enhancements or benefits. This movement features Hanhart's movement damping system. What that means is it's shock resistant. Now, if you see on the dial at 6 o'clock, it says anti-magnetic and shock proof. And the reason why it is anti-magnetic is because the SW510M is an anti-magnetic movement, which is good. It also features Hanhart's movement damping system. So around the movement, where the movement sits inside the movement holder, it has shock absorbers. And so, for example, if the case, the head of the piece, is struck with impact damage, it prevents the shock being transmitted through the case, through the movement holder, into the movement, and therefore knocking out the accuracy of it, the regulation of the caliber. So, it's anti-magnetic and it's also shock resistant due to the Hanhart movement damping system, and it works very well. And they're right to be proud of that and print it on the dial, both anti-magnetic and shock proof, which is true. So excellent caliber, and also excellent to have shock resistance, and also excellent to have its anti-magnetic properties as well. No negatives to it whatsoever. The SW510M is reliable, it's well proven, and it's Swiss made. And plus 2 seconds per day is chronometer accurate. 58 hours is very strong specification. Manual winding feels smooth, setting the time feels good, hacking works well. It's the correct choice. Chronograph complication has perfect alignment. Chronograph hand resets bang on 3 out of 3 times, as I showed you. So last, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. At €2,690 on the Oyster Style bracelet, it's clearly a mid-tier piece. Yes, it is unquestionably excellent quality, and yes, it is unquestionably excellent value at €2,690, both the Panda and the reverse Panda versions. As I've detailed, the reverse Panda is my choice because of the fully loomed subdials on the bicompact style, but this is subjective. These 2 pieces have no negatives whatsoever. They are stellar. I actually think Hanhart have undervalued these. They would both still be excellent quality and excellent value at €3,000 or €4,000. What we're looking at here is high tier level quality control, high tier level finishing, high tier level build quality at a mid-tier price point of €2,690. These would still be excellent quality and excellent value at €3,000 or €4,000. I think they've undervalued them at €2,690. Above all else, what I like is the updates, the refinement of the micro adjustment clasp, which is excellent. That was the main negative of Hanhart pieces. They used to have a 2-button push clasp with holes drilled in the flanks. That was not good enough for a mid-tier piece. They've now addressed that. This updated micro adjustment clasp fully justifies the price point. So, made in Germany piece with a Swiss made SW510M, which is an excellent chronograph movement. So I'm going to declare both pieces, the 415ES Panda and 415ES Reverse Panda you're looking at, a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Hanhart 415ES Panda and Reverse Panda. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.